You didn't want to take a deep breath?
I'm down. Okay, I'm ready.
It's just nice to take one, I guess.
Yes. The giggles felt like breathing a little bit too.
What happened?
The giggles felt like breathing a little bit.
Okay.
Just slightly.
I don't know about that. I've never thought about that. How are you feeling?
I'm like nervous.
Yeah, me too.
Welcome back.
Hi.
Look at our beautiful setup.
I know, we've worked a lot on our beautiful setup since
The last time we were here.
Yeah, it's been 3.5 months.
Yeah. And almost a full year since we first recorded our first episode.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the second time around is harder.
Yeah. I mean, think about our second episode. That was a harder episode to record than the first episode we recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we had to scratch it and
Right. Because we were aware we now had an audience.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I think it's hard to be witnessed, especially if you know you're being witnessed.
Really?
That's how it felt in that moment, yeah. Because I think some part of it felt like someone's going to like react to this or respond to this or have some sort of like conversation with whatever is being said. So I feel like I was thinking a lot more about what I was saying. More than like I normally do or have to. Just in existing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about
Instead
you?
of just naturally flowing.
Yeah.
Just sharing what you think. Now other people are getting a perspective or inside of your brain, which is often scary. I always thought that the beginning was harder. Not necessarily for the podcast, just in general.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about it a lot more. And I'm like, no, doing something the second time is actually the more troubling component. And I think it's just not necessarily being witnessed, but it's you showing yourself that you are making a commitment and a consistency and building a habit. So the second time you do it, it makes things real.
Yeah. And the first time there's no bar. So whatever you do, that's the bar. But now there's a bar. So you got to clear that bar now or something.
Yeah. And I wonder how much of that is just expectations that we have for ourselves versus expectations that other people have for us. I feel like it's an expectation I have for myself.
Well, ones I assume people have of me based on nothing besides my own anxiety.
Exactly. So. Based on nothing. That's why I wish that you watched Inside Out 2. You need to watch Inside Out 2 because the whole premise is around anxiety and how anxiety is introduced during puberty. And basically how anxiety fucks up your life.
Wow, I want to remember the time where I wasn't anxious. I can't remember. Yeah. It is such a center of my existence. I'm like...
And that you stop experiencing joy around puberty, or you experience joy less because anxiety comes into the picture.
Is anxiety like narration building? Because I feel like for me, anxiety is like making up a story. Before I even enter a space, I'm like, this is what's happening.
It's making up a story, it's protecting yourself, it's thinking about, 7 weeks from now, if I say this thing, then this is what it'll lead to 7 weeks down the line. And I'm not going to make friends and whatever the case is if I act a certain way. So...
Fun.
Yeah.
So here's to being anxious and still doing a second season of a podcast.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think it hurts to try.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that you've taught me is to take risks. And I feel like this is an embodiment of that. I didn't expect it to look like this per se. I don't know if this is what I signed up for, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
It's messy.
Yeah, it's messy and it's okay to be witnessed.
Yeah.
And
I haven't
think that's
internalized that one yet, but I agree with you.
I feel like you've told me that before.
I have told you. I've also told myself. I say it a lot. I'm not ready to like accept it. It's hard to allow it once you know what's happening, I think, for me. Once I know I'm being witnessed, I'm like, now what do I do?
Now I am more awkward than I was beforehand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a good practice for that. I think our pictures are a good embodiment of how we feel.
What do you mean?
I don't know. This feels like an awkward picture to me. It feels really close to how I feel most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think we're also really good at witnessing other people, which that's kind of the funny part for us.
Yeah.
We're like, I'll sit with you and I'll pay attention and I'll be an active listener and you can tell me your entire life and I will be there with you and I will put my phone away and I'll be here. And we don't
Someone
really like
offers that back. I'm like, nah, it's okay. I
like, you
appreciate
can
it.
go-
I'm like, you got it. You can go do what you got to do. You don't
Can
got
we
to
like
be
focus on you again? Which again, I think it takes a long time to unlearn.
Yeah.
So, and this is our practice in unlearning a lot of things.
Like our pictures are on this wall, which I think for me is another element of practicing it, you know? Like we're here. This is our podcast. This is not like an anonymous podcast. Like we're very much a part of it. So I think this is good practice.
And, you know, we're really smart. We have a lot of things that we believe in. And I think the things we believe in are good things for the most part.
I
So I always tell you this. There are a bunch of people in the fucking world who are just sharing the wildest ideas.
Yes.
And I think
making
ours
a lot of money.
Making
and
a lot of
And have a
money.
lot of credibility in their fields saying actual nonsense.
Yeah, workshops that we go to and we're like, so how much are you getting paid?
Yeah.
And
I'm like,
how come I'm getting paid half?
right.
And I already knew that 10 years ago.
Because we're not telling anybody what we know. It's our fault.
Exactly. Now we've returned to our point. And that's why we have to speak. What's the Audre Lorde quote? You better say it with your full chest.
I can't because I'm not doing it.
But you
Speaking
are.
benefits me.
Speaking benefits
Even if it's
me.
misunderstood or misconstrued. The act in itself is important and
Right.
essential. I mean, that's not how the phrase goes, but that's how I've internalized it. Shout out to Audrey.
What does she say? Your silence will kill you?
What has it done for you? What has silence gotten you? What has it given you?
A false sense of safety.
Yeah. Like, all you'll have is death and you said nothing. Like, what will come of you speaking besides change?
Yeah, and I don't want to get so deep so quickly, but for me, it's really real. Like, my mom is deaf and mute, and you know this. And so I feel like part of my work is to actually share my voice because I grew up with somebody that didn't have that opportunity. And there are a lot of things that my mom wished she could say, and they're all in her brain. Whatever language she speaks is the only language she knows, and no one else knows it. And so I feel that very deeply to my core that I'm going to say fucked up shit and I'm going to say great things and I'm going to say a lot of things. And at the end of the day, I have to speak.
Yeah.
That it is my duty to speak. Often.
Yeah. Say things out loud often. That is the theme of our season, I think. Is just say things out loud. Even if it's something you have to reiterate or change or work through again, it has to have a home somewhere outside of your brain.
And that it's unpolished. And it's the only way other people are going to get to know us.
Yes. You're going to get to know us this season.
Right. And
I hope.
we can't only be known by the things we do for others. I know.
I'm going to let that just
gonna,
marinate.
I'm just going to, that's for you and for me, but that's for you.
Yeah.
How does it make
That's
you feel to
hard.
hear that?
I really like doing things for others because it doesn't center me. And I appreciate that about the like act or whatever I'm doing. And I don't think I like being centered. Or maybe I'm uncomfortable by it, or there might be a different underlying reason besides disliking it. But right now, it feels that way.
All right, let's go back to childhood.
Oh, it's the first episode. We just started.
All the trauma starts in childhood, right? Don't we believe?
We do. It does.
When did that shift happen for you? That you didn't want to be centered, that you didn't want to be seen? Do you have a memory? I'm sure it's been blocked.
Oh, probably, yeah. I don't know if I have a concrete one, but I think I've always preferred to like show someone a polished, finished thing than the work of it.
Is that how other people were around you?
I think it's I don't know if how people were around me, but I think I didn't know how to present unpolished things to people around me. So I didn't present things until they were finished. Whether it was like school, academics, or my family, like you only share things in process with people who understand process. I don't know if I had anybody in my life when I was younger who like understood my process. I don't know if I understood my process, but yeah.
And maybe for a fear of being judged by where you were in that moment and not the final product.
I think like fear of being judged maybe, but also like inability to explain what I was doing because it wasn't like done yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you're in the middle of an idea, like think about making this collage together. Like we had to kind of figure out like the steps as we were making it, I had an idea in my brain of what it would look like at the end. And I'm assuming you also had a version of it in your head.
No clue. I had no idea what it was going to look like at the end.
But I guess like we were talking about process, right? We weren't stuck on outcome. But I feel like a lot of people are here to look at the result of something, not the process in which something comes to be.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't know where that began, but that's kind of my like logic around it, I think. What about for you? Do you feel like people around you were interested or involved in seeing how you got to something, or they were interested in seeing what you got to?
I think people around me were interested with everything else
And
happening.
not you.
Yeah. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's just what it is. I don't know. I don't feel any type of way about it anymore. But I feel like part of it for me is just like coming to America. I think that that's where a lot of things start, at least in my memory bank.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is there's a lot, you have to survive, you have to go to work. There are other things that are a priority that might have not been in DR, because people have a lot more space, a lot more time to just kind of sit around and talk to you individually and sort of pay attention to you and play with you, versus the culture here is drastically different.
Yeah. And I think, and people coming here, I mean, if it's new for them, they're also trying to acclimate to this new environment.
Exactly.
So nothing else to prioritize besides the acclimation. That makes sense.
And think about it, I'm assuming this is the same in Ethiopia or just Ethiopian culture. When you go to DR, people think you're rich.
Yeah, because you came from here.
Because you came from here. They didn't see that you worked 60 hours that week to make the $100 or whatever it was that you're giving them.
Yeah.
And so it's not their fault that they think that that's sort of what they've been taught. However, I think it's a difficult thing to kind of grapple with. They see the finished product. They see you came here and now you have this.
Right.
They
You're
didn't
able to go back and that makes
exactly.
sense.
So I think we all have been taught that the finished product is the best thing.
Yeah. Nothing, like you're quiet until it's done almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't share it until it's completed, until you have finished that thought, etc.
Yeah. But this whole entire process we're in is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Good for us.
Intentionally
for learning the
so.
opposite. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because this is nothing close to done. I mean, we're just kind of doing it as we go.
Yeah. And I think a lot of things are doing, and a lot of people are doing things as they go, is just, that's not the way we perceive it. And that's not the way they present it.
Yeah. They only present the polished, finished version of something.
Exactly.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, given that, I have a question.
In
this new season, in this new season, our second season, what space do you want our podcast to occupy? What do you want to represent?
Why would you ask me that?
That's a good question.
I do think it's a good question.
You kind of just touched on it, so I felt very relevant.
Sure. I hope that the podcast gives people the opportunity to just kind of take a step back, to pause, to reflect. I think has always been an intention of ours, to reflect on the things that we're talking about and to also share that with other people that are around them. Because to our point, so many things happen in our brain and we don't necessarily share out loud. And so I hope that the folks that are in community with us also start to share their ideas out loud and start to be confident in themselves. I think that's one of the things that I would hope the podcast accomplishes.
I think one of the spaces I hope that we occupy is that people are able to like process in community.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like everything you said. Ditto.
And.
Right. Ditto. And I think I also want people to get more comfortable feeling awkward and taking a picture of it and posting it places. And get more comfortable doing something new and being bad at it in public, not just in private. I hope that people get more comfortable processing verbally as they're thinking through things. I know it's definitely what I want to work on, and what I want the season to be for me also is to kind of get through a thought by just thinking about it out loud instead of trying to like think about it, write it down first, and then share some like draft, version with somebody else. I also want people to, or I want this season to occupy a space of like color and play and art. Like, this was so much fun to put together.
Yeah.
You know, so I hope that this season gives people everything that you described, the community, the reflection, the processing space, but also gives people an idea or time to create something simply for the fact that they want it to exist. Just because why not?
I love that. And I know that that's something that you've been talking about and sort of working through to creating the spaces that you want to sort of be in. And even if they don't look like what it looks like in your head, that a version of it exists. And that if there are fucking people here in the world who are creating the most obscene content or the most obscene things in general, that we get to create the spaces that we want to.
Yeah, like, why not us? Like, what is in our way? Really nothing besides ego. For me, it's definitely my like fear of judgment and all those things.
And fear of failure for me more than anything else.
Fear of failure. And I think fear of like wasted time. But that I think keeps changing. Like what time is, like what really is wasted time if I was having fun.
Right.
So those things are definitely things I have yet to completely unlearn. But I hope that this season creates more space for us to just create things we want. And also gives people the same room to see it in practice. Absolutely. So they also can maybe mirror or embody it in their own lives in whatever way works for them.
What do you think about the concept of failing better each time?
Logically, I understand it.
But you don't like it?
It makes sense to me. And I think it's just really hard to fail. It is really hard.
You think it's hard to fail?
No. Let me
it's pretty easy to fail.
No. I think it's really, the feeling of failure is really hard.
Yes.
Like failing is very simple. And it's also maybe really hard. I don't know. But the experience of it, I think, is a lot to come out of. Ideally, over time, if you're failing better, that time between you failing and the trying again shortens.
Right.
Is the, that's what I would, in my head, what failing better looks like. But you have to first overcome the experience or like whatever emotional like roller coaster you're going to go on once you failed at something. Yeah, that's what I think. What about you?
And that it's not a reflection of your worth or your value as a person if you do fail.
Yeah.
I know that that's something that I'm consistently talking myself through, that I'm not a terrible person if I was bad at this thing.
Yeah.
That actually is helpful to know what I need to work on and what I can do better next time. And it's something that I am trying to practice just in my own life. Can I just experiment? Can I live a life of experimentation and see what happens? I honestly think of everything right now as a hypothesis because nothing is certain. So
it'll never be certain.
It'll never be certain. And so I think it's just my responsibility to try things out. And if it doesn't work, then I have another chance. Perfect example yesterday. Sometimes the lessons are in the mundane, to be honest. So when we went to Cider Hill Farm, and everybody was picking out their flowers, I learned that I don't know how to pick flowers. And I walked away from it for a while. I mean, my feet hurt, and I was just like, how the fuck did you not know how to pick flowers? That was what was happening in my brain. And I sat there for maybe 15 minutes wallowing. And then I said to myself, you're still here. You have an opportunity to go again, and now you know how to do it, and you can cut them and you can create what you want. And that to me was such a reflection of the kind of work that I've been doing internally, that before I would have just sat there and waited until everyone was done and then just been so upset that I didn't know how to do this simple thing that other people know how to.
So interesting, because that same exact story, right, for you, I liked the way you picked your flowers initially,
and I was so mad at you about
why. It was such a good. I liked your plan so much. I want to do it, because like for me, I was like, of course, people pick flowers like this. The idea of filling something up like this and being able to preserve it as is was so cool to me. So I didn't consider that a failure at all. Right. I'm sorry that you were mad at
and
me.
You were the only person. I was like, what do you mean? It looks great. And everyone else around me is just looking at me like, what is this girl doing?
No, maybe because I saw another result that made sense to me, right? Like there's a way to like preserve flowers in a way that like keeps the color, and no one else's flowers will keep their color besides the way you initially pick them. So for me, that was like, again, but it's all perspective, right? Like,
it is all perspective.
like maybe you felt that way because everybody else picked them differently.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I was the odd one out.
Right. But for me, what I saw, I've seen before and I've made it myself. And it's hard to create, right? And it's also, it's intentional in the way what you pick and how it looks inside, but I know how to preserve it. So I think it's also like information, right? Because if you, I don't know. So it's interesting that for you was a moment of failure. I thought it was really intentional. Like I took that moment to be like, wow, Adeline's so cool.
And for me, it's like a core wound has been activated.
I'm so sorry. That was not my intention at all. I was so excited for you.
No, not what you did, just the
that,
experience
yeah.
in and of itself.
That's so
and
interesting.
not that I study flowers energetically or spiritually. We're going to go into a tangent right now. But I do know that flowers are teachers too. And it's something that I've been taught just from spiritual leaders. And so even the flowers that I was picking, I was looking at sort of the meaning of them. And I felt like I was learning a lesson as I was picking them, the ones that I was picking, how I did it. And honestly, like it turned out great. At the end of the day, I got another chance to do it again, which is not the worst thing in the world. But that may also go to show that maybe I should just trust myself, that even if I'm doing something differently, I'm doing it my way. I'm doing it in a way that is intuitive, and that it's okay to be the only person in the room doing something different.
Yeah. Those were
I
the
have not
words
internalized.
Those were the words you were saying out loud, though. Those are words that, yeah, because when I first saw you, were like, yeah, I'm just doing it my way, and I was like, that's so cool. Like, then I second guess
myself,
I know, yeah,
which is
interesting. But I guess my question now, given this competition, is like, it feels like failure is always in perspective. Like you saw it as failure because you were the odd one out of a situation,
right?
Like, so how many of the things that we consider a failure are only failure because of who's in the room? Versus
I agree.
Who else could have been in the room or who's not in the room. Like, I feel like I fail when I'm alone, but it's still based on things I know that I've seen before, not because I actually think something failed. Does that make sense?
Say more.
Like, what's a good example? Like when I was first putting this wallpaper up, I put it up in a way that made sense to me. And maybe there's a different way or a better way to do it. I don't know, but it worked, right? But based on like how like I put this ones up, I put them up like vertically. So it's different, but in my head, I'm like, maybe there's a certain way to do something, but you only know that if someone's correcting your behavior or if someone is like telling you it's not done the right way. So if you don't have someone doing that, then maybe you don't feel like you're failing all the time. That makes sense?
Absolutely. And I know internally, we always differentiate because I think that is important.
Yeah.
That there are a million ways to do things, that there is no such thing as a right way of doing things, except in math. Right?
I mean, I guess so.
At least the final answer. And so it's important to remember that.
Yeah.
It is possible to do the exact same thing. What am I trying to say? It is possible to get at the same answer in 100 different ways.
You just gotta trust that. Okay.
You just have to trust
We're gonna
that.
ask you in episode 10 where you're at with that one. I have another question for you.
You have too many questions.
I know.
For me.
It's so exciting. This is one lesson I feel like you're learning. Yeah?
Go ahead.
Accurate? Does that feel accurate? This lesson of like internalizing this particular thing about like doing things your way. Mm-hmm. Since the last time we recorded, since our season 1, what are the things you feel like you have learned or internalized?
I am learning to share with others, to allow other people to help me. And
love that for you.
I think that's a big lesson in itself, right?
Yeah.
A lot of what was happening last year, what I was coming to terms with was being a giver and the kind of emotional, physical, and spiritual toll that it takes on a person to continuously give to other people and not receive. And what this year has taught me has been that I can receive, I can ask for help. It's okay. All of those things are okay. And people will show up if you let them. What about for you?
That part. If you let them. Do you have things you've internalized or are learning?
No, I've internalized
I
them.
love that. Okay, amazing.
It's been some good work on this side.
Yo, it's been a long year. Okay, what have I internalized? Yeah, I think I've internalized people will show up if you let them. I don't know about the letting them part, but I have internalized that that's how that works. If you let people show up, they will show up. I think I'm still definitely learning how to create spaces that I want. I think I'm doing it better this year than I was last year. I think that the environment, the physical space I live in, has been a really big part of cultivating spaces I want.
Yeah.
So I'm like glad that I've like invested in it, like financially, that I invested in it in like just time and like changing my job so I have more time. Like a lot of things that I've done in the past year, I think I've created more room for me to do this, to make this. Like I have an entire craft room that I just want to spend time in, that I don't get to spend time in. So I think I'm learning how to spend my time doing what I want more often than just working. I have not unlearned it, but I'm really trying. Like, just trying really hard.
I always talk about how my life changed once I was radicalized as a worker. And I wish that for everyone that exists in the world. That when we understand that work is not the all,
Yeah.
the only thing that we should focus on, our entire life improves.
It's true. Yeah. So much. Like, I don't know. I don't think I considered my time mine for a long time. And it wasn't until like I literally switched jobs that I was like, oh, I can like dedicate this much time to doing this like task for work, but I also can dedicate a similar amount of time and be disciplined about doing art. Like it's I can give it the same energy. So that's been a new learning for me, is to kind of, like take this as seriously as I take doing stuff for other people.
Yeah, and I think there's a beauty in that. And this is just as important.
Right? Like,
Because
I know it's not making me money, but like it looks
it's
cool
not
and I
making
want to
us-
look at it.
Yeah,
Makes me happy.
we're allowed to do things that don't make us money, but that bring us joy. And that brings us calmness and peace and all of these other things. There's
new,
so many
though.
different offerings.
Yeah, that's new. I feel like that's on this side of 20 something, for me at least. To be like, oh, I'm allowed to just like also enjoy my life. Like I can just hang out. Like I'm not always working towards the next whatever, like that feels like something I like was granted after I turned like 27 or something.
Wow.
I
So
know,
really,
it sucks.
it's only been a few
It hasn't even been a full year.
No, that's
like
not.
I haven't. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's not actually true, but that's how it feels, at least in my like timeline of things. I feel like I was busy creating my like, I don't know, surviving or like creating some sort of stability until now. And now I'm like, oh, it just took too long. Like it took too long. I'm tired now.
And now there's more space to figure out, to frolic, to just create.
Yeah.
That's what my hope is for us this year. And I think you mentioned it earlier. I just want to create whatever that looks like, whatever form it takes. I'm very, very open. I want to get to know myself as a creator, because I think that everybody's creative, and it's something that we have unlearned.
Yes. I would agree with that. Definitely have unlearned
We've
that.
learned to be logical. We've learned to set deadlines. We've learned to plan. And we forgot this thing that is in our essence.
Yeah.
That we can just create something beautiful because we want to. And we can share with our friends, or we can keep it to ourselves. And there's so many different versions of creativity that I have learned, I think, in the last year that I wasn't necessarily aware of or allowed myself to experience or witnessed other people doing.
I love. Yay. Okay, now for a spicier question. How in the past few months, or since you last recorded, have you been messier? Have you been honoring our title of our podcast?
I want you to answer first, actually.
I asked the question. You answered the question.
I know,
That's how
but
it
you
works.
ask a lot of questions.
No, I have a lot of questions. Okay, let's see.
Me
How
too.
I'm messier. I think it's similar to my answer around like what I've learned. I think that as a Capricorn, as a really earthbound, grounded person, like I really, structure is my thing. Like logic, reason, structure, timelines, and I've really, really tried to break out of that in spaces and just like not have a plan and kind of just do like things that are not in my schedule, like, which has been really challenging for me. So that feels messier for sure. And I think that in a workspace, I feel like I have been more willing to push back on things that just don't make sense to me. Whereas normally I'm like a team player and I'm always kind of down for like whatever's going to create peace. I'm like, sure. But I feel like in the past like few months for sure, I've definitely just kind of stepped in to be like, actually, no, like this is not going to happen. This is not going on in this way. So they all feel like I'm breaking out of my like mold a little bit, but they feel more authentic to me. So that feels messier, I think. What about you? Or what do you think about what I said?
I am allowing myself the opportunity to see things from multiple perspectives. There have been moments this past year where I've just thought about the same thing weeks in and weeks out, and at some point I just got so tired of myself. I'm so serious. I think it's okay to get tired of yourself. I think that's
where change comes.
That's where change comes. And I've just given myself permission to not talk about that thing or give myself space from just different things that were happening in life that I was like, I just don't want to experience this anymore. And that's all I kept saying. I just don't want to experience this anymore. And we always talk about accountability. How am I contributing to this dynamic? How am I just recreating the same storyline? Like, I'm so tired of this story. What new story can I create? And I think that's hard.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to try to see something a different way. And sometimes we are so stuck, or at least I'm stuck in my own experience of something, or, you know, my emotional reaction, that I don't necessarily take a step back and say, okay, I'm blaming this person a lot.
And what can I do? How am I contributing?
Not even what can I do, just how can I not blame them? Can I extend more grace more often? And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people that I'm in conversations with, they're like, no, they don't deserve grace because they did this thing. And I think we're all deserving
They deserve
of grace.
the most grace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's okay to acknowledge when somebody hurts you and to not see them only in that way or from that perspective. And at the end of the day, I am having my own experience and I have to take accountability for my own experience. So if I'm continuing to see a person a particular way, or I'm continuing to think about something in a particular way, I can change that. I can change that. It's so funny. My sister got me this bracelet earlier this year, and it's a Scorpio sign. And inside of it has an affirmation. And the affirmation is, I change. And I just carry that with me. And I just have it on my wrist. And that's what's guiding me. I change. And it feels messy because I don't like change. None of us like change.
I told you, structure, stability, routines.
Exactly.
Like those things.
But God is change.
Yeah. And it just, you pivot. You're like, this is not working. You gotta, or you can just keep complaining. You're right. At some point, it's like, okay, like if you're not gonna change the situation, then you kind of have to accept it and like live with it.
Just like, you should get over yourself. Like,
we definitely had those times this year for sure.
Many times.
See, do I have more questions for you? I have one more.
Oh no.
I think it's a good way to kind of figure out how to talk about the rest of our season, kind of think about our themes for this coming season. What time is it on the clock of the world, Adeline? What time is it? And where does that quote come from? That question.
It comes from a beautiful human being who is now an ancestor, Grace Lee Boggs. She was a philosopher, an activist. She primarily spent her adult life in Detroit and just doing organizing work. And she really wanted us to just think about this question, like, what time is it on the clock of the world? What's happening outside of our own experience? And how can we be in relationship with people that are not necessarily in our environment, in our current environment? So I feel like on the clock of the world, there's a lot of grief. On the clock of the world, there's a lot of people that are trying to just make sure that other people live and that are taking care of other people. And it's so funny. I just keep seeing that all we're fighting for is for more people to live. That's the work. That's the work. And I think what we do on a small scale can translate to what happens at a bigger scale. And so us taking care of each other, us taking care of the people that are in our immediate communities can actually reverberate throughout the ecosystem that is the world. And so when I think about the clock of the world, I just think there's a lot of heavy energy. And we always talk about this. What is it? Blues epistemology.
My favorite thing I learned in college ever.
That where there is sadness, there is
Deep
joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think that's always the time that the world is in.
Yeah. I feel like I always lean on the side of play with that same blues epistemology. Maybe because I'm an educator, so I feel like I'm always around kids in the midst of grief. Mm-hmm. And it's not like toxic positivity where we're just like denying reality. Like, yes, the world is like very much on fire in every way, any direction you look at it, it's on fire. And I think that I've also seen a lot of spaces and people come out of this, like cultivating spaces like this, like small ones that are trying to find silver linings, find spaces to kind of just play and honor that, yes, there are people who are fighting for other people to live, and you are here alive, right? So there needs to be something that you are intentionally doing to cultivate joy here too. So I really like that part of it. So I feel like that's also somewhere on the time. It has to be. Otherwise, we're not coming out of this in any other way besides, I don't know, just grief,
Absolutely. And the other day I was having a conversation with someone and they said that kids default to joy. And I told you that that's my mantra.
Yeah.
How can we default to joy and give people also the permission and opportunity to experience joy and play and experimentation? I think is the only way that we'll sort of get through this time period, this very, very dark time period that we're in. And I hope that, when we're in our 50s and we're in our 60s, we sort of can look back to this moment, just see how brave we are. Because I think that what we're doing right now is really brave. I think it takes a lot to sit and have a conversation and share what you think out loud. And it's something that I've been afraid of for a very long time because we don't want people to see us. We don't want to be witnessed. And at the deepest part of us, we actually do want those things.
Yeah.
We've just been taught that it comes with baggage and there are a lot of negative sides to it.
You have to be perfect for sharing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and one of the things that I've been leaning on to this year is really being a teacher. I've enjoyed it a lot. We've kind of swapped.
So excited. I love.
We've swapped, but I tell all my students all the time, I said, we're just trying things out. We're just experimenting. I don't expect you to be perfect. I don't want you to be perfect. In fact, I just want you to see how this feels. And if you don't like it, we don't have to do it again. And bada bing, bada bum.
Aren't they the best? It's my favorite. Like, I miss them so much. Yeah. Not being around kids has definitely been hard. Yeah. And the spirit of thinking about things you offer students and the things that you offer your community, what do you hope our listeners get out of our podcast this season?
I hope that they get to fail and that they allow themselves to fail and that they see us as trying to be the most authentic versions of ourselves and that they are that as well.
What do I hope? I hope that they lean further into a dream. I feel like our last season was, we had our Spotify, we had our podcast, we had some audio, and like we're leaning deeper into this dream, right? Like we're here, there's like a backdrop, there's video, like we're talking to each other, there's a microphone, there's all these other pieces that
are so intimidating.
And like, yeah, right? But I think it's like, you're leaning further into something that you want to create. So I hope that this season people are able to lean deeper into a dream, whatever that dream may be.
Can you share what's one dream that you want to see?
For our podcast, for me, in life?
I think in life.
Wow, in life.
It's extended.
Okay.
What are your dreams?
I mean, this is a really simple one. I'm going to name a couple if I can. But the first one is
want a homestead.
Yeah, for real though.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing my dream for me. My first dream is I don't want to worry about money. I don't know what dream that is. If that's making more or not having to deal with it ever. I don't know. But I just don't want to worry about it. Like it's such a stressful thing to me. And I think it's so unnecessary. Like
So
I don't
what do
know.
you want to
So
worry about?
yeah, so I think that part of my dream is a homestead. Like I want to cultivate community, and I think that growing your own things and people making their own things is just such an incredible and beautiful way to have community. And I've enjoyed the small ways I've done it so much, right? The little tomato jam and like the like rose water, those are like fun for me to create, and it's better. It's like it costs less. It's also just like we know where things come from. I want to know where things come from, and I think yeah, homestead is definitely a pipe dream of mine. But I think a closer dream I have is able to center play without having to work so hard for it. I feel like right now I have to carve out time for play. And I think I want it to be so much more embedded into just like the way that I live my life, and it's not currently. I want that. That's a dream of mine. What about you? Any dreams?
My biggest dream. I don't know if it's my biggest dream. I'm just being silly. I want to create with other people. Whatever form that takes.
At the homestead.
At the homestead.
Yes.
For example, I assisted you in a photo shoot recently.
Yes, you did.
That was fun. We're not going to say what the photo shoot was.
It's okay, but it was
that was
good.
cool.
Yeah.
And I mentioned at some point last season that there are a lot of things that I do by myself that I want to do with other people. And so that's my dream, to do things with other people that I enjoy doing. And that means making collages together. You know, we technically did this together.
We did do it together.
We had to
Not
compromise,
even
you know.
we did it together.
I'm a very symmetrical person, so I had to, you know, kind of compromise here and sort of lean into how other people do things, because I know that better things come when you do it with other people. I don't believe in doing things by myself. For example, we just planned an event really recently, and a lot of my friends helped me, and I witnessed what it felt like to complete a task with multiple people involved. And that's actually, there's nothing wrong with me because other people are helping me.
Yeah.
It's actually an additive. There are more people that are thinking about this together. And so my dream is just to create with other people.
I love that. We have a follow-up for you. Do you feel like your vision for what you wanted for that event came to life better because of the group you had, or like do you feel like the dream changed like with the group you had?
I think it came out better because of the group that I've had. I honestly would not have been able to do it without other people. Genuinely speaking. And I'm humble about that. I don't know a lot of things, and there are a lot of things I don't want to know. And there are other people who do. And that's why I know them. Yeah. You know? I know them for more than that. But,
right.
You know? Yeah. I will say that one of the things that I learned about myself, which is something I already knew, but I'm leaning more towards, is I actually enjoy being a director. I like planning. I like bringing a group of people together and having a particular vision and seeing how everybody sort of fits into that vision and seeing how the vision evolves. So that's sort of long-term planning, and also everyday sort of work, like what needs to get done today. I enjoy that entire process. I don't necessarily want to say that I want to create events for the rest of my life.
Right.
I think events will always be a part of my work, though, not just all that I do. So yeah, I think that's one of my dreams. And I think an event could be, this is a small event. There are larger scale events. And so I just want to bring people together to do meaningful things.
I love that. It's a very
is it
plausible
broad?
dream. No, it's a good dream, because I feel like you can do so much with it, and you can have your dream in your life for such a long time. Like, it's not like you want one thing and then once you get it, it's like the dream has been like accomplished. I don't know. It's just like, this is a dream you can always work to manifest in different ways. And I love that. That's so exciting.
Yeah, and the more that you do something, the more that you can refine it.
Exactly.
As well, and add things to it. So that's what I'm hoping for. Even in this next year, that's really what I'm hoping for. And I think that it takes a lot of risk to put yourself out there and say, I want to do this thing. Will other people want to do it with me? It's a vulnerable place to be, and you have to trust that whoever is there is meant to be there. And that's
we always come back to that exact lesson. I tell you all the time, you can roll your eyes at me all you want. I'm saying it's a lesson that keeps coming back, is that you just got to keep moving forward, and people who are your people will be there when they need to be there.
Yeah.
every iteration of it makes sense to me, and I just always resorted back to you. I learned that from you.
I don't think I'm the first person to think that.
I've never said that. I'm saying for me, you are the person that I
Mm-hmm.
resort to for that lesson, because I think it's proven true ever since, right? I think that but like not even just the people part, but like the you. If you don't move, nothing else moves.
Mm-hmm.
So you will find yourself stuck exactly where you are for as long as you decide not to make a move.
And you can choose to stay
It's
in a
very
particular
possible.
place.
Very possible for you to stay exactly where you are, and nothing will change, and everything will always feel however it feels there until you move. And moving is hard.
Yeah.
Staying is hard.
You know
Pick
what's
your hard.
something that I was just thinking about? People often say we are our own worst critic.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be my best friend. You know, I do. Not necessarily in the sense of, oh, I'm hyping myself up, I'm doing this, but really, it is my life. I am a priority in my life, and I have to see where I'm going, see where the road is going to take me. And even if I take the long way, to know that I have myself is really important. And who is that person?
Yeah.
Because I think we've talked about it, but when I went to college, I felt like I was running away in some capacity. And then I got to college and fuck, I had myself.
You're like, wow, okay, now what?
Now what?
Yeah.
Now what? Now I
Have to deal with
have to
all of
like
my
deal
shit.
with my shit. I can't escape from myself, and I can try. And really shifting away from, being my own worst critic to sort of being my best friend is what I'm hoping. I would say is also a dream of mine. I would say it's a dream of mine.
Where are you at on the? Because let's say worst critic is here and best friend is here. Do you feel like you're like
I'm
leaning
still on
towards
that side.
All right, cool. I was just checking. I was trying to see the progress look like.
And that's why it's a dream.
You're right.
Something you work towards daily.
This came up in our first episode last season also, but just like your first relationship was with yourself, the very first one, the one you're taught least about, the one that you just kind of learned through stumbling through your life, and eventually you're like, oh, like this is a person, I am a person, I have emotions, I have feelings. Like you kind of do that kind of work again. I feel like, yeah, up until through college, like I don't know if I did any of that. I think I kind of just existed, and I was like, wow, life is happening around me. And I don't think it was until the past like few years, honestly, that I was like, oh, like I'm making conscious choices that impact the way my life looks and feels every day. That includes what I put in my body, that includes who I talk to, that includes what I'm doing with my day. And the less I'm choosing those things intentionally, the more I'm sabotaging my experience.
Yeah, and you know what's a hard lesson that I learned?
You learned it? Good for you. What is it?
Did I learn it, or did it just come up?
Hope you learn it soon.
It's so much easier to let other people be in the driver's seat of your life than,
You can be like, oh, I can't control this.
oh my God, yeah. And for a long time, I don't know, I probably told you this, but I kept having this dream that I was driving the car, but I was sleeping. Fucking terrified.
I think you have told me that. Yeah.
Fucking terrified. I've had that dream more than 5 times. Let's just say that. Sporadically.
Hey, at least you're driving the car.
At least I'm driving the car. Big question mark. I'm not driving the car.
Right.
And what that has been teaching me is that, oh, it's actually much simpler for me to allow someone else to reject me or to say no to me, or let them make the first choice instead of being decisive and wanting things and going after them. And I don't know what to do about that. We can dissect that at some point.
Yeah, I think we should. I agree. I mean, I agree with you. I think I still don't even think I know really what I want. And most often, I think I'm trying to accept that sometimes I just like, I'm actually indifferent. Like that's really how I feel versus I can't make a decision. I think they feel the same. Those things feel the same.
When someone asks you, what are you hoping for in 2 to 5 years? Where do you want to be? Is that a valuable question for you?
No. I mean, I don't want to be stressed. I want to feel happy. Yeah.
I think I would like the HR version of this.
I feel like I would have answered that question really differently like 5 years ago. But I've said this before in our last season, but I feel like I planned my life until now. And now there's no more roadmap. My roadmap was go to college, get a degree, become a teacher. I did that, and now I'm done. And I'm like, I didn't plan
So
it.
much out there.
I really thought it would take longer. I just didn't know it was gonna be done already. So I feel like the map I had for my life was based on whatever I was taught, and it ended at my career. And I did it, and not only did I do that, I left it. So now I have gotten off my whatever plan I had. Now I'm like, so now I'm just kind of winging it.
Yeah.
So, which is probably not a bad thing, but yeah, like quitting a job was really scary, and I just knew that meant I had no next step. I didn't have like another dream I was trying to pursue instead of it. I just knew that wasn't it. Right? So now I'm just kind of looking at a blank canvas, which could be like exciting. For me, it is nerve-wracking. But for some people, they're like, wow, anything is an option. I'm like, anything is an option.
Like, do you understand,
you know,
that
means all the bad and good, not just, you know. So I don't know. Like I feel like I'm in the driver's seat of my life now. We're going really slowly. We're like going like maybe 5 miles an hour right now. We're just kind of cruising.
respect that.
Yeah, we're not going very fast.
Still in the school zone.
Yeah, we're staying right in the school zone. The kids are still right there. I can see them.
Yeah.
I have a little withdrawal from working at a school. Like low key, I miss them. But I definitely can still see it. I could like right now, if I wasn't working at a school would be really easy. I could just hop right back in like nothing changed. But I know now better that I can't do that. I've seen my life without it, and I can't go back.
So this is something that I don't have an answer to, that I don't even know how to ask, that I'm struggling through.
Wow. Okay, got it.
We're gonna say all of those things at the same time because it's important. What? Okay, let me backtrack. Can we be directionless?
You asked it very well.
Thanks.
Okay.
Because I do want to be in the driver's seat of my own life. And I'm okay with not necessarily having a direction sometimes. Maybe, I mean, we've talked about this. It's okay to know the next step. But sometimes I don't fucking know the next step. I don't know anything. And I feel like I'm constantly coming up on this tension where I'm being asked to decide what's next. Yeah. And it's not enough for me to just be open. Or at least people don't make me feel like it's enough for me to be open, that I have to have a particular idea of where I want to move next. And I mean that in every aspect of life.
I agree about every aspect of life. That's enough.
So you're probably not the right person.
No, I have I don't know if it's a good answer, but I have an answer.
I don't want an answer. I want some thoughts.
My answer is going to be thoughts. I don't have a new sentence final answer for you. I only have unpolished things. I have messy things. Okay, this is my bullet point of ideas in response to your question.
That's the only way I receive information.
One, I think that the only direction my life ever has is my values.
Right.
So I don't think it's driving me anywhere, but it is like, if we're just staying with the metaphor of a car, like it is what fuels the car, right? Like there's only gas in it if it's aligned. If there's no alignment, there's no gas. The car's not going nowhere. What direction it goes in, that part I feel like similar to you, definitely feel like I'm pulled to decide things that I don't have enough information to decide on. I'm not looking to answer. Like I feel no urgency to answer anyone's questions.
Interesting.
Even though they are bringing some urgency to me, I'm just like, even if I was to give you an answer right now, like only my life would change. So I don't know why you're feeling urgent about me giving people answers to things. So yeah, I think my values offer direction in some capacity. I've decided that it's okay to be directionless, simply because that's where I'm at right now. That's enough.
Be directionless.
Yeah, I think it's enough. I think that as a chronic directioned person, I don't know if it's a better way to say that, so I'm gonna call it now as a person who's always like been going one way towards a very specific kind of thing. Like I'm in some sort of like unlearning therapy right now to kind of just be like, I don't know. It's very hard. I think it is intentional, and it feels very much like a muscle I'm developing that is very weak still. I couldn't lift anything. Someone offered me a very clear path, and I might take it.
Right. Like, you know the way.
I'm like, you got the answer, and you mapped it out. Like I might.
Oh, I'm good at that. Yeah, bet. Yeah. I could do that. I could do that too. I could do anything.
Right. So I definitely still feel like if offered a direction, I might take it, only because this is hard. But I am trying to stay here more now than I was maybe like months ago.
Yeah, because, one of my biggest fears is that other people decide things on my behalf and decide the direction of my life. And
But if you don't know, like, then what do you do?
and that goes to our conversation around failure.
Yeah.
That I can try this thing, and if it doesn't work out, and even if someone else presented it to me, I can still decide to go a different way.
Yeah.
And maybe at that point I'm 40, you know, and things are very different.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. Like,
so
the things I feel like that are rooted in the ground for me in terms of like even like picking a direction is values and history. Like history, all I have for history is what I've done and like who I know. But in front of me, like I have no idea. So that's my answer. Does that offer you any clarity for you?
yeah, yeah. I think
Hey, your values can give you direction.
That's what I was thinking
There you
about.
go. Something concrete. I don't know.
It's hard being a person that enjoys multiple things. I'm very opposite to the Capricorn energy that you hold. I've always been ready to do whatever. I've never had sort of a clear plan. I have things that I enjoy doing and then other things that I don't enjoy doing. And that also offers me clarity. But being very open, I think, in this kind of world is hard.
I think that you and I are walking towards the same middle. I think that
What's our middle?
I think that I came from like a structured routine at some point. I mean, only really in my workspace, if we're being really honest, because the rest of my life does not look like that at all. Not even a little bit. I prefer this creative things, but I still need structure in my brain. And I think for you, you're coming from like a really like everything's an option. Like let's that's also like an extreme. So I think a middle is like some semblance of a process for yourself, for myself, one that offers you room and space, that gives you some kind of direction that fits for you and the fact that you want to have more than one option in front of you. Yeah. And I think my middle looks the same, right? That like I want to be able to still have structure, but not feel like I have no other option but the one thing I've chosen. That's why I had to leave teaching. I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to teach. I like kids. I like curriculum. I don't want to work at a school.
Right.
So like it's like,
and I can do this in different areas.
That's what I'm trying to like tell myself now. I'm like, oh, I can like still teach, but maybe not in a classroom. So now I'm like, where else do people teach? I don't know. Like that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Right here.
Right.
Right
But
here.
this is a good
Obviously.
but I'm saying this is a good like, practice. Like where else can you do the things you want to do without having to deal with the parts of it you don't necessarily like or agree with or whatever it may be. So that feels like a balancing act of just existing.
Yeah.
I think. So
yeah. I will say that despite me feeling directionless often, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a value, but I do want art to be more of a focal point in my life. Whatever that means.
I love.
Or looks like.
Yeah.
Like I could do this.
Yes.
I could spend 8 hours
Exactly.
doing this.
I agree.
Making things pretty.
Sign me up.
Call me.
The hard part's like I feel like we have to categorize things only in jobs, right? Like what can you do as work? Because like I could do like interior design, but like I don't want to do that as like a career, but I enjoy it. I think it's fun. So I think
I know. I wish we just had little pockets. Like for 1 month, I'll do this.
that'd be fun.
For
That's
1
like
month, I'll do this.
There was a class that I took in high school called Rista, and it's like a chance to explore like different career paths. You just stay in it for like I think 2 weeks at a time.
Oh, cool.
And it was so cool. You get to like try it out, and if you like one, you can like commit to it for the next few years. But see, it's like why can't I just keep all of them and just keep? So we got to like go to woodworking, and like we learned how to like make a website, not a very good one, but like just some basics. There was like nursing, like we just tried all these different things, and I was like, wow, this is such a cool way to just exist. But then at the end of it, you're supposed to make a decision. That's the part that I was like, so I chose none of them.
Really?
Yeah. My sister did a similar program where she chose one of the things to like commit to and did it for 2 years, and I was like, I don't think I can commit to this for 2 years. But I liked what I did. I just didn't want to be like a woodworker. I wanted to make.
Wait, so let me ask you, because I actually don't know this. Why did you want to become a teacher in the first place?
I didn't.
What?
I'm
just feel like it was your whole identity for so long.
Yeah, and I think it still is.
Yeah, I think you're a teacher at heart.
Okay, let me see if I can summarize the story.
Was it in high school? When did that happen?
So when I I was, when I was in 8th grade, I realized that America was racist. I didn't know that before. And I was like, whoa.
I think it's a fair age to
and
find that
I
out.
kind of decided that people just obviously didn't know, because that's
yeah.
why. Because that's
We've all been there.
because like
We're just ignorant.
I was like, why would they keep doing,
They need to know
history.
So
So when I was in 8th grade, I went to Chicago for like some summer program, and I learned about curriculum, and I was like, oh, I can teach people stuff. Like, I'm gonna write curriculum.
I can teach people that America's racist.
Yeah, exactly. Basically,
that's amazing.
So I spent my summer in 8th grade in Chicago writing a curriculum about racism. And I came back, and I was like,
fucking serious? You were 13, 14 years old.
Yep. I was in Chicago, and I was like, racism is bad. Like, don't be racist. And then when I got to 9th grade, there was like a nonprofit space in Cambridge that like offered like training for high school students to like learn facilitation and curriculum development, things like that. So I learned how to organize and facilitate. So we started like running workshops for like real estate firms, just random companies who wanted to learn about like the 4 eyes of oppression, like stuff like that. So I was doing that for like 9th grade.
Can't imagine you being so young.
Yeah, I was like, racism is bad. Like, don't do that.
Oh my god.
And at that point, I was already part of a program called Breakthrough. So we were doing like classes. I was taking classes, but then I got to teach there. So I already had a curriculum background, and they taught me more curriculum. So I kind of was just doing it anyway. And I was like, if people know better, I think I still believe this. This is still actually a value I hold. I think that if people know better, truly know better, and understand the consequences of their actions, they will do better. Maybe it's naive of me, but I believe that. So I think for me, like, I've always been an educator. Maybe not like formally in a classroom, but I was like, I can give you information. And what you choose to do with it is now that I can't. I have learned to let go of what happens after. But yeah, so that's how I got into curriculum. And then I kind of just stayed doing curriculum. And then when I got to college, I was like, community solves conflict. So then I spent my entire undergrad like researching like how to cultivate community, and like all of this through curriculum development. Like, how do you teach people about themselves, the power of storytelling, and all those pieces. And they all create a space for like sharing about who you are, but also like teaching others about how to treat you and things like that. So it all kind of came together. So that's why I did special ed, and like, so they all, and then I got into a classroom, and I was like, oh, you guys don't care.
And everything is set against me.
Right.
Well, it's really helpful, because I actually didn't realize that that's how you got.
Yeah, that's how I got here. That's why I hate it. That's why I'm so mad at it.
I know, but when you do something for that amount of time, I think it's okay to want to do something different.
Yeah, but I think the hard part's like, I don't want to do anything different. I like what I was doing. I wasn't able to do it.
Right.
Like, when I got into a classroom, my first classroom was in Worcester, and I was a sophomore in college, and they let me teach a class without a license, and I was like,
what did you teach?
English to juniors.
Fun.
But none of the kids in the classroom spoke English.
What?
They all spoke Spanish. There was one kid who was a translator. I was like, this is crazy. Like, if that kid is absent, like, what are we all gonna do?
I respect that kid.
But he's not getting paid.
Labor.
Yeah, right. So for me, I was like, this is not working. I can't teach them this way. So then I learned about special ed. So when I was doing special ed, I was like, I can create access for kids who can't access other things. And then I was like, we're doing things that are illegal. And like we're not even doing this correctly. Like, so at any point that I was like interested or willing to do what I came there to do, I couldn't. And I was like, what are we doing?
And then you learned the root cause.
I was like, what is this entire field? Yeah. So when I got to like the schools I was working at here, I was just like, I can control my classroom. The kids I teach will know what I can teach them, and like what they do with that after, where they go after. Like, I can at the very least make sure they walk away knowing who they are, how to advocate for who they are, and how to push back against people telling them that they are not who they say they are. I was like, if you know nothing else, check people on how to say your name. Make sure you know how to ask questions, ask for help. Don't let your ego be the reason why you don't get help. And I don't know, like, be interested in stuff besides your phone or whatever, right? That was it. That was my only priority. So, yeah. So then leaving was hard because then I don't have kids. I miss them. I know.
Yeah, I mean, kids allow us to tap into a different part of our brain, too.
Yeah. They're just weird. Like, they're... I mean, you've met them in the high school kids. Yeah. Yeah, so that's how I got here.
And we were weird when we were in high school.
Yeah. I feel like we were less weird. Maybe we weren't, but I feel like we're less weird than the current children.
I mean, they're
technology has done a lot of things.
Absolutely. I mean, we can go in a whole rant about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've always been a person who didn't have a, like, center for career stuff, at least?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I wanted to be an English teacher, actually.
Really? I mean, that hasn't really changed now.
I don't think that, I don't
it
think
hasn't
that
really
changed. Because
Why didn't
I
you do
loved
it?
reading.
Why don't you do it?
Because I didn't want to teach in a classroom.
Oh.
So, pretty
Why
fair.
not?
I just learned that very quickly.
Why? How did you learn that? Do you try it somewhere and you're like, nah?
It just didn't feel like a space that I wanted to be a part of. I love the concept of education. I think education is important, but it just didn't feel like the classroom was the space that I...
Would you do like a homeschool instead?
Maybe. But yeah, I mean, the part that I liked the most was like seminar style.
Yeah. Okay. So like more like college probably.
Exactly.
Or like seniors in high school or something.
Yeah, I like reading, I like writing, I like talking to people about both of those things. And I think there's a lot that people can learn through reading. So I've been reading since, I think that's the only thing that has really remained consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just used to hide when I was in middle school and I used to go read. I mean, that's how I learned English. It was pretty much survival at that point. But I used to have a different book every week. I read the entire Twilight series. I did read Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5th grade. I feel like I read it right before it came out. And I remember being disappointed by the first one. Being like, nah, I can't watch the rest of these.
So it's something that I've always enjoyed. And it's something that I've always wanted to incorporate into everything that I do. And I think that that's still remains. I just didn't know exactly what that would look like. Yeah. I mean, if I could just review books,
I mean,
happiest girl in the world. I could.
Yeah.
I could.
You know what's cool? I think it's
there are a lot of things I could do.
And that you will
and that I
do.
Right.
You will do. That's really cool.
Thanks for the affirmation.
Yeah. No, I think you're so cool. Like, I actually believe that. I think it's so cool how close both of us are to those people still. I mean, it looks very different, but like, you still read a lot. You still want the things you wanted then. Like, maybe they look a little different.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you're that far off from what you were looking at, what you were looking into as a kid. Even for me, I think 8th grade me and me now are like kind of the same. I think I speak up more. People. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still trying to teach people. Yeah, exactly. That hasn't changed.
I mean, that's a fair career path.
Yeah, but I think that, I don't know. I feel like when I was younger, I was always told that like by the time I become older, I'll like want different things and I'll change so much. And I just like, I don't think I've changed. I'm not saying I haven't, but I feel like for both of us, it doesn't seem like we're that far away from like the characters or the things we wanted for ourselves when we were younger. I think that's pretty cool.
And that's one of the things that I've been thinking about in the last few years. What did I enjoy doing when I was younger?
Reading. Fiction?
And yeah, I read a lot of fiction when I was younger. I started reading nonfiction when I got to college and, kind of got stuck there for a while. I'm back to fiction now.
Good. Welcome back.
Yeah, fiction is a great place to be. And because I kind of forgot. I forgot the things that I enjoyed for a long time. And it's something it's what I was telling you about Inside Out.
Yeah,
you forget the things that you enjoy doing because anxiety, embarrassment, all these other emotions start to take precedent. And you kind of forget this other part of yourself that is worthwhile to know too.
I have homework. I need to watch both of them. I haven't seen either.
We've talked about a lot of different things today, and we went in many different directions. I think that's one of the things we're learning to do.
Attempt to show you our season.
Exactly. And, after this conversation, what are you thinking about? What are you walking away with?
I'm thinking a lot about how close we are to childhood, or how close I want to be. Maybe it's childhood. There's so much to learn from it, whether it be like good things, bad things, the roots of things. There's just a lot to learn. I've been taking that away. I think I'm also taking away, I just like talking to you. Like, I feel like I just get so much out of it every single time I do it. And that has only like increased the more often I speak to you. So yeah, I really, really value this community. This community. I can do this now. We're on video.
This community. Right.
How about you? What are you thinking about? What are you taking away?
I'm thinking about how important it is to just share a thought and work through it with someone else and just genuinely ask for someone else's opinion and be willing to sort of receive it and workshop it together, because I think we're better when we think together, honestly. And that's what I feel like this podcast is a practice of. if I'm being honest. And it helps us both sharpen our thinking so that when we go and speak to other people, we have more clarity about what we believe, our values, where we stand.
I agree. Yep, I walk away with clarity whenever I walk away from our conversations. Thanks for, I don't know.
Well, I'm grateful
doing
for
this.
you. I'm grateful that we have decided to invest in this particular podcast, and I hope that it only continues to grow and continues to help us learn more things about ourselves and about the people that we love.
I agree.
Yeah. All right.
And that's a wrap.
Until
Let's go. Should we end like that? Let's go.
Let's